Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. When you're looking to fill a raised bed, there are a bewildering number of choices. Today, we're going to look at some good and not so good options. Also, putting down pre-emergent herbicide now can save you a lot of weed pulling later. That's just ahead on the Family Plot Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Kyle McLane. Kyle is a horticulturist at the Dixon Gallery Gardens. Thanks for being with us, Kyle.
Great to be here.
So here's a question we get a lot at the Extension Office. What kind of soil do I need to put in my raised bed? All right. So we talk about different kinds of soil. I usually talk about different kind of amendments. So we have you here as the expert. So what is a good soil to use in a raised bed?
So I think 50% of that soil, so half of it needs to be a clay-based soil to start out with.
Okay.
At least I'd say 50%, maybe a little bit less. That way you're going to have minerals and that structure in the soil, and then we're going to amend that with different things. That's a long term, so that you're just adding organic matter over time, so you don't have to go back and add a lot of stuff to it.
Okay.
So this is you do this first time, and then you don't have to do it every year, add all this stuff.
Okay.
You're just adding organic matter.
Okay. So we have some good and not so good
Good.
options.
We do.
So we're going to take a look at it and let you tell us what you think about it.
All right, the first one is Miracle Grow. It's a bagged product. It's raised bed soil. To me, it has a lot of peat in it. And for here in Memphis, peat and clay make bricks. So you want to go from that. Now, you could take this and use this as an amendment and with your existing soil.
Okay.
50%. And I would add, it's got some bark and stuff in it, but it might be good to add some more aggregate. You could use some pine. It already has, it looks like pine bark, but you could add a little bit more, maybe coarse sand or something to loosen it up a little bit. But, short term, you may be able to grow something in it, but over time, plus it's mostly organic, it's just going to sink over time. And you're going to have to keep adding stuff to it. If you've got that, already have that garden soil, the clay, sand, silt mix, you're just adding some of this to it every year, and you've already got that soil there, and it's not sinking down every year. You're just adding nutrients back and recharging your soil is basically what you're doing.
Okay. So what is peat moss?
Peat moss is, they have bogs. It's a plant that, and when it dies down, you have these huge bogs. It is not sustainable. So they're taking that off. They're looking for alternatives now, but it's the main growing media for plants. If you go and buy plants, a lot of it's just based on peat. It holds moisture. It's a great material, but it's just not sustainable. And over time, we're going to deplete it all. There's not going to be any left.
Wow.
But Canada has huge masses of it. They have machines. They drain the bog out, and the peat's left, and they come in and just and cut it and vacuum it up. And then you buy that in different grades of soil of mixes. The pro mixes that you buy in big bales is peat based.
Okay.
So
Good explanation. All right.
So it's a plant that's been broken down.
Okay. So this is something we hear a lot about as topsoil, right? Most people buy topsoil.
Which to me, this almost is straight bark. This is like soil conditioner. This would not grow anything, I think, at all. I mean, it needs, there's not a lot of organic in this, a little bit, but I'd add more organic and again, add soil to it. So if you already have something like this, if you can bring some screen soil or soil in it, if this was completely empty, I would loosen that soil in the bottom of it and then start building your raised bed. But you need, throughout that whole bed, you need some of that clay, clay, sand, silt soil as you build it up. You just don't want to throw this on top and try to plant through it. You want to incorporate it in, and then you can use an organic fertilizer with it. So this is really, to me, just an amendment. It's not really going to grow in that.
Okay. And you say you add soil to it. So why would you add the soil to it?
To allow that plant to have those nutrients, the minerals, and the structure for it, and that's where a lot of your nutrients are held in that soil. The nutrients are gonna go right through it when it drains down, and so that helps, and it helps anchor the plant, gives it structure. This is black cow,
Okay.
and you can see there's a lot of bark in it, and I think when they get the cow manure up and compost it, there's the bedding is mixed in with it. Again, this would be your great mix with organics, your organic mix, but you add this into existing soil with some bark or something with it. You know, if you had these two together with some soil, it would be great. But again, you could grow initially some stuff in it, but again, this is going to break down over time. And then if you're in a hotter climate, it's fast going to break down. So at the end of the summer, this one might be only, half as deep, and you got to add to it every year. Where if you have your clay-based soil, you're just adding a couple inches every year or so.
Yeah, you talked about the hotter climate. I mean, that's what we have here.
That's for sure.
Right. Okay.
Then leaf compost, which is just composted leaves that have been ground up. Again, this is great, especially in a wooded
it feels good
wooded
too.
area. It also has some stems and stuff, and will help in loosening the soil. Again, really a soil additive to amend, not a growing medium. You could probably grow a little bit in it, but I can tell you if you put a vegetable and just straight in that, it's not going to grow very much. There are some nutrients, but it's not highly nutritious, and it doesn't have the structure. You can see how loose that is.
It's pretty loose.
So
it's fluffy.
it will drain well, but you need that clay soil to have those minerals and that clay sand silt soil in it.
It feels good though.
It does.
Yeah.
So next, Pro Mix, which is just a name that was given for this, but this is 1/3 screen soil, 1/3 sand, and this is actually a finer sand,
Yeah, you can see the
which will work, and then 1/3 compost. This is not bad, but again, there's not very much soil in it, true soil in it. It's because what we're talking about, say that soil, that is really just organic material. All these ones we've gotten to. Now we're actually adding some soil into it, but I don't think it's enough soil. And I would, even if you have this mixture, it needs to be, it's more of an amendment to me to the soil, not a growing medium. And you would want to add some fertilizer for sure. But again, you would want to mix that in it.
Okay.
Garden mix, where we're getting into more, 1/4 soil, 1/4 compost, 1/4 of the pine fines, which could be
Feels good.
composted wood chips. You want composted wood chips. You don't want fresh bark, fresh wood material in it.
And why not?
Because the microbes will pull nitrogen out of the soil to break down that, and it'll deplete it, and your plants will be stunted. They will not grow. And then it's got some coarse red sand in it. Again, it's only 1/4 soil, so it's not very much soil in it. So it needs more to it. That's a great amendment for your soil if you're going to add it.
And I hear you keep mentioning you got to have some soil in it though,
You
so
do.
that is important.
It is.
Right. Okay.
That's holding minerals, the structure for it. It does help with pore space. If it's a clay or soil, you want to mix it up, and you're mixing this organic to give that pore space so that those microbes in the air and water can move around.
Right. So all of those additives that you talked about would be good for pore space.
Now we're getting into the good stuff.
Right.
So this is, you call it garden mix. This is that mixture.
Okay.
So that's the compost, coarse sand, and bark added to regular clay soil, clay base. It could be silty, sandy. You've amended that soil with this, so this is your premium.
I mean, it's
You're
definitely
going to
soil
plant
in
something.
there,
You could add a little more organic if you wanted. If you're doing a raised bed, I would. You could start out and then add some more organic to it. But this is a great start, and then from here, every year, all you do is add an inch or two of organic matter to it. You can add trace minerals to this, and you can buy that and add to it. I know someone that does that a couple times a year, and he has incredible vegetables and plants because he uses those trace minerals.
makes a difference.
I haven't seen it around here,
Right.
but this is a great mix. And then the last is just straight soil, which it could be really good if it was really loamy soil, which this looks pretty good. If it's straight clay, the nutrients are not gonna be available. The clay, the charge on those clay particles holds on to stuff and doesn't release it to the plant. So you do want to add some amendments, but if it's a really good loamy soil, you may just add a little bit of organic and it'd be fine. You wouldn't have to. And this would be a great, if it, get a soil test.
Get a soil test. Yeah.
Any of that soil you get, you don't have to do it on the other, but
Right.
On this clay, sand, silt soil, that you want to get a soil test and see where you're at, because you could have high levels of something in it that you didn't know about. Here in Memphis, the phosphorus seems to be really high
Yes,
on all
it
the
is.
soil tests.
It is. It
It
sure
doesn't
is.
break down, it's not available.
Yeah.
You add organics to it, that'll make that phosphorus available. And so just depends on how good this is. This has been screened and put in there, but you could take your own soil in your yard and mix these nutrients, organics to it, and make it into this. Once you mix it all together, it'd be more like this, but you can improve that.
So you mentioned screen soil. So what
Screen soil is where they take soil that they've brought in from somewhere. A lot of times it's topsoil cleared off of a property, and they run it through a machine that breaks it down into fine particles, and it's easier to work with. Now, you could get other soil that wasn't screened and till it, but initially it's just easier to work with and mix up. If you've got big clods, you're not going to be able to mix the stuff together with it. So you want it broken down. If you're doing a bigger raised bed, or in the ground, not a raised bed, but just a regular plot, you do want to initially use a tiller or something to mix it in. But after that, initially, because it will cause compaction if you do it all the time, to get it mixed together. And then after that, you just layer some compost in it and kind of mix it in, and you're good to go.
So it sounds like to me, your take home is, but the soil is good.
It is.
And you can add the amendments to it.
And then amendments to it. You're not growing plants and amendments, you're growing plants, and this is true soil that you've added organic matter to it.
Okay.
So depends on where you're at, around where you're going to find soil. It may be really clay soil, then it may be places where it's really, really good loamy soil that's the equal mixture of sand, silt, and clay that's great for growing stuff.
Okay. Well, we're going to find out, because we're going to put some plants in each one of these little plots here, and we're going to see which one grows the best, and we're going to test you out. All right. All right. Thank you, guys. We appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
All right.
Out here in the family plot garden, we're testing 8 different raised bed soils to see which ones perform best. Now, some of them are actually recommended as raised bed soils, and some of them are used a lot as raised bed soils, but really aren't the best options. So we have everything from straight compost, straight manure, all the way through to just regular soil. In each small plot, we're going to plant a cherry tomato, a pepper. We're going to plant a light feeding perennial, a heavy feeding perennial, a light feeding annual, and a heavy feeding annual, to see what the soil conditions are like and what works best for which plants. We plan to continue this test for at least 3 years, so we know which garden soil really is the best for raised beds. We're going to see some soils that are going to do really good early on in the first year, and then they're going to drop off, and vice versa. We're going to see soils that aren't that great the first year but get better and better with age. We'll be checking back several times through the year to see which soils are doing well and which soils aren't doing so good.
All right, Mr. D, let's talk a little bit about pre-emerge.
Pre-emergent
Yeah.
herbicides.
Herbicides.
That's right. A very, very useful and important tool to use.
I would agree with that.
For homeowners and commercial farmers. And, if you don't believe that, then I would encourage you to treat half of your front yard with pre-emergent herbicide and leave the other half untreated.
Right.
The problem that probably most folks have with putting out pre-emergent herbicides is, if they're doing it themselves, if they don't see any weed out there, they don't think they need to do anything. And if you wait until the weeds emerge, the pre-emergent herbicide is not going to do anything for the emerged weeds. Now, that's not going to say that it's not going to help you. If you apply a pre-emergent herbicide after weeds have emerged, it will stop any more weeds from emerging. But the ones that are there will continue to grow. So you'll have to mix a post-emergent product with the pre-emergent product to take care of your problem. The timing is important.
Yes, crucial.
Mostly in the fall, you put out pre-emergent herbicide in the fall of the year to control winter weeds, and then in the spring of the year to control summer weeds. And in the fall, when temperatures drop below 60 degrees at night, that is when you need to control winter annuals, and that happens fairly early in many cases. In the springtime, when daytime temperatures reach 65 degrees Fahrenheit for 4 or more days, that's when you need to put that out. And I'm reading from a publication that a friend of mine, Dr. Fitzroy Bullock at Tennessee State University has put out. It's called Lawn Weed Management.
It's a good one.
And that information is in here. Many of the herbicides will take care of more than one species. A grass pre-emergent herbicide will not kill the broadleaf. The broadleaf pre-emergent herbicides will not kill the grasses that you're trying to kill. So in many cases, you're going to have to use 2 pre-herbicides mixed together. You need to make sure that the product that you use is labeled for the turf grass that you have.
Yes.
That is the most important thing, because if you've got put a grass material out that kills Bermuda grass in a fescue lawn, you don't want to put that out in a Bermuda grass lawn, right?
Right.
Because it'll kill your Bermuda grass. But there's a lot of choices out there. As with all pesticides, it's very, very important that you read the label.
Yes.
Very important that you properly calibrate your equipment, know that you're putting the right amount out there, because many of these type products, if you overdo it, they will kill the grass that you're trying to protect, or the lawn that you're trying to protect. So you don't want to, it's not a case where a little bit does a little good and a lot does a lot better. It's a little bit does a good and
good
too
enough
much
job.
will kill
Yeah.
your turf grass. But that's kind of in a nutshell. I know there are different formulations. They're granular products and they're liquid formulations.
Which one would you prefer? Which one you think would be the best?
Personally, I prefer the liquids because number one, they're cheaper usually.
Okay.
On a per acre basis or per 1,000 square foot basis. I can do a better job of getting a more even distribution out there. It probably takes a little bit less water to activate it than the granular products. Sometimes granular products there are places that you need to use it, around flower beds, or there are places you can't drag a sprayer and really small areas. The granular products most of the time you can put out with a drop spreader, a broadcast fertilizer type spreader, or even the spreaders that you put on you hold in your hand, or there are those that you strap on and put out. But I think there's a significant difference in cost. Granulars are quite a bit more expensive than the liquid products.
And the granulars have to be watered in, which is...
They've got to be watered in. Almost all of them have to be watered in, and a quarter to half inch of water is important with even a lot of the liquid products that you put out. So the label will tell you that, and follow the label. Now, on the other hand, if you've got an irrigation system and there's a rain forecast like we have forecasts, in the future, within 24 to 48 hours, then you don't run your irrigation system, because too much water can be a bad thing.
That's
it
right.
can leach it out of the root zone. And you got pre-emergent herbicides. They don't necessarily keep a seed from germinating, but when that seed germinates, it puts out a little stem and a root. And the pre-emergent herbicide, when it comes in contact with that, it stops it from going any further.
Usually inhibits the formation of roots. Is usually what that is.
Right.
And sometimes the granulars are easier for people to use, and for timing too, with rain events and things.
Right.
It's easier because you can have it down on the ground, and the timing to where the water has to be on it is not as critical as it would be with the liquids.
It'll wait for you. It'll wait for you a little bit. That's true.
So I'm sure, do you use a lot of the granulars or liquid?
Yeah, we use both,
there at the University of
but
Memphis?
granular is more of a way we're going to go, because we overseed a lot of areas,
Right,
so
so you
we
have to
don't
be careful.
put any of the pre-emergents in that area in the fall.
Yeah, that's
Like-
important.
that's
if
really
you're going to
important.
oversee with ryegrass, or anything.
Or,
Right.
or if you're seeding fescue even, you don't want to put pre-emergents down there.
Right.
Right.
How long do some of the herbicides last before they have to be reapplied? And it usually will tell you that on the label on some of the products.
Yeah, and that kind of brings up another point. Probably, I don't know, many of the pre-emergent herbicides, they recommend doing a sequential or split application, and that extends the length of coverage. And I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks. It's kind of probably an average.
It is. If you're looking at preen,
so.
trifuelan, it is.
Yeah.
But it just depends. I know the timing, because we have interesting falls and winters around here, because we don't necessarily get really the kind of steady, typical weather that a lot of the other parts of the country are in. So there's a more opportunity for weeds to germinate, so to ensure that that doesn't happen, and the same thing with the fall and the spring.
Yeah.
Sometimes they will have 3 or 4 applications of pre-emergence during the year at different times to try to hit those windows.
And sequential is usually better. And if you can go with more than one application. One's probably not going to do the trick.
No, one's
No.
not going to do the trick.
No.
It's going to be multiple applications, and then
One will help.
Yeah, one will help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not
And then a lot of that too depends on soil type, pH,
Yeah.
soil
And
moisture,
what you're growing
and
there.
what you're growing. So
Right.
good stuff, Mr. D. We appreciate that. Real good stuff. Thank you much.
Okay, I want to show you a technique for hostas called a raw sizing. Many hostas only want to produce one plant of each year, and they get bigger and bigger, but to make them double in size, you really want to get pups on them. So I'm going to show you how to do that. When the pip first comes up in the spring, take a razor blade or a sharp knife and come straight down on the pip and cut halfway down till you get, there's a basal plate just under there. You'll feel it's a little bit hard, and cut through it. And then make another one the other way. So you've made an X or a cross right in the top of it, okay? Then by splitting that basal plate, you'll get a pup to come off of each one of them. You'll get 4, and then you can divide those and move them if you want to, or just let it be a bigger hosta.
All right, Kyle, here's our Q&A segment. You ready?
I'm ready.
These are great questions. Here's our first via email. How can I encourage my staghorn sumac to bloom? And this is Marty from Central Ohio. He says he has several 5-year-old transplants and they look healthy. So he's trying to get them to bloom. So what do you think about that?
Well, sumac, that staghorn likes a lot of sun. So the more sun you can give it, and then it is we had it when I was working another place in a xeric planting where it was totally dry. So it likes drier conditions.
Okay, so it does.
So if you're giving it a bunch of water and stuff, having that dry is the more where it would be more inclined to bloom better.
Right.
You could use something like a little bit more phosphorus or something to get some of it to flower, or fertilize it, but not heavy. It's real light on the fertilizer. It does not like a lot of fertilizer.
Right.
I think the full sun and letting it dry out and not keep it too wet.
I would agree with that. Definitely the full sun. No nitrogen fertilizer, right?
Or very, very low, very
'cause-
low.
yeah.
It does not like a bunch of nutrient stuff.
But I didn't realize it likes the dry soils like that. So, okay. All right. So, Marty, we hope that helps you out there. Thank you for that question. Here's our next via email. How do I get rid of grub worms in my raised beds? And this is Deborah from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. She says she would like to get rid of them before spring planting, but wants to try to stay organic. So can we help her out?
We can. So I think if she wants to stay organic, you can get beneficial nematodes. It's a microscopic worm that will get in and kill that grub, and it will not hurt your your plants.
Yeah.
Or that they refer to it as BT, but it's a bacteria. It's Bacillus thuringiensis. Again, that once they ingest that, within 24 hours they stop eating and die. And that would then you're getting the worm, the dead grub is giving organic matter back to your plants.
Giving it back to it.
It is.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I'm thinking at it. Yeah.
those two things would be the best for if you want to do it without using chemicals.
Right. Or you can just dig it out by hand if you can.
You
Since
could.
it's in a raised bed, right?
Right.
Just kind of dig it out, pull it out, throw it to the birds. They'll eat it or put it in a bucket of warm soapy water. That would help. But I would cover that bed with some type of cover crop, some other plants or mulch, right, to discourage the Japanese beetles or May or June beetles from coming in and laying eggs.
Exactly, and that cover crop is going to put nitrogen back into your soil and will help keep from erosion and a lot of things with that. It's good.
All right. So thank you for that question, Ms. Deborah. We appreciate that. Here's our next viewer email, and we get this question a lot at the Extension office. How do you use coffee grounds and eggshells in the garden? And this is Charlene from Smyrna, Tennessee. So How do you use those coffee
Well,
grounds
I personally
and
like
eggshells?
the eggshells is gonna, if you can break it up,
Yeah.
and if you can compost them both for a while. Same thing with, you just don't want to put a whole bunch of coffee grounds. My grandmother used to put it under all of her rocks and all of her beds, but it does add a lot to the soil. The coffee grounds can be a little acidic, but I like to compost it a little bit before I put it in and break it up a little, let it break down a little bit, and then
Okay.
put it in there.
Okay.
You can do that in you can do that in a pail of something to break it down a little bit before you do that.
Yeah, I would definitely compost both of those. And one thing about the grounds that I've, actually witnessed a couple of times, if you put it on too thick, it repels water. Yeah, so when you try to water your plants, it won't even, get through.
Right, and that eggshell's got
ground.
calcium and stuff
Yeah.
in it. It's really good
Right.
for your soil.
And think about the calcium for the eggshells. Some of the senior gardeners, they'll crush it up and actually put it in the hole, with the tomato plant, right? Because they're thinking about blossom end rot.
Right.
Right. So I've seen that done by some of those senior gardeners that I learned a lot from. All right. So there you have it, Charlene. Yeah, compost it. That's what we think you should do. All right. Well, Kyle, fun as always, man. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for being here. All right. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is questions@familyplotgarden.com. And the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee, 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching. It's almost time to plant. If you have any questions before you get your garden started for the year, we'd love to help. Head on over to familyplotgarden.com. We have thousands of informational and how-to videos about all sorts of gardening topics. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.